Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, you're awake! You're actually factually awake. Oh thank God. Oh thank goodness. How are you feeling? How is your head? Oh, I should get some nurses in here. Stat. They should know what to do to help. They should see you now that you're up and awake. Well, awake at least, and thank heavens too. I heard a neurologist say you might never wake up, but apparently that's neurologist for you. Always so doomy and gloomy. You don't remember? Well, I mean, I don't blame you, but how much do you remember to begin with? I'm your wife? Trust me, I think I know what's best for my honey, and at the moment, what I think is best for my honey is making sure a licensed practitioner sees you after the week you've had. Oh, especially after the week you've had. It's been a hoot. Dear, you've been in a coma for a week. And based on the way you're looking at me, it looks like you're suffering from a minor bit of memory loss as well. Criminy, this is bad, but you know what I always say. Always look on the bright side, which you don't know that I always say that because you don't remember. My point was going to be that you can make new memories. We can make new memories. You know who you are, who your family is, what your job is, right? I mean, you would have mentioned it, I assume, but you struggle with more recent things, like our marriage or your accident. It sounds like a limited form of retrograde amnesia. If you're also affected by anterograde amnesia based on the recency of the memories that you have lost, well, only time will tell, I suppose. I suppose our wedding was fairly recent. After all, we didn't even budget to get rings just yet. We were too excited, and honestly, if you knew what we looked like schmoozing around on dates, well, who could blame us for it? A love so eager, so pure, it only comes around once in a lifetime. Why, the reason you're in this mess to begin with is only because I slipped off the platform for the metro on the way back from one of our dizzying little dates, and you, my knight in shining armor, dove down onto the tracks to try to get me back on the platform before the train could come careening our way. We're lucky it stopped at all, let alone at the time it did, but that... It still meant that you got, a little nailed in the noggin, if you don't mind my trivial phrasing of it. Before anyone even knows it, you're sprawled out on your back, completely cold on the tracks, and the EMTs are in the scene faster than you can dial 911. Well, I did the CPR necessary to make sure you'd be able to survive in the interim it took for them to arrive, and no matter how quick they are, the brain can still die in around 3 to 6 minutes without oxygen, and it certainly took them... Well, all I'm saying is that I helped too. That should mean something to somebody. I helped save your life. As if it wasn't already at least half mine, though it's not like anyone else seems to care. Of course, they didn't let me ride in the ambulance back with you. That bothered me. In fact, that still bothers me. Like, I'm literally your wife, but no, sure. I can just catch a ride on the very same train that could have ripped my honey from the moral coil to the hospital. No sweat. Honestly, the nerve! I swear, they're gonna make me provide the marriage certificate just to be able to see you. I mean, isn't that crazy? I swear, people these days, they're wound up like little tops over basically nothing. As if they could deny me anything. As if I'd ever let myself be denied. I see it. I want it. I want it. I got it. That simple. I mean, people usually, and I mean usually, have a hard time saying no to me. You know, you used to love that about me. I swear, I had you wrapped around my little finger. It was so cute. Of course, your want was the only one I'd ever want to provide for. Anything you'd ask, I'd be happy to deliver. Just to remind yourself that there's nothing I wouldn't give you. That was actually how we met. Me providing for you. You wouldn't remember, of course, but it still leaves me rather fond. That was actually how we met. Me providing for you. You wouldn't remember, of course, but it still leaves me rather fond. You had this little cafe that you used to frequent all the time for months on end. You'd go there at least once a week, and, you know, sometimes more when you could swing it money-wise, but let me tell you, I made sure that you could. Anytime you sat in my section, it was on the house. I never told you, of course. I didn't even know if you liked me. I just knew that you were a regular. Regular enough for me to keep an eye on you. Regular enough for me to keep an eye on you. Make sure that you were doing well. And sooner or later, I was just smitten. Smitten with just the very idea of you and the life you lived outside my purview. Maybe you'd show up every week for the next 50 years, or maybe you'd hop on a train next week and I'd never see you again. It's not like knowing your order by heart exactly makes me entitled to your life story, and it's not like I was exactly keen to learn anybody else's either, but you were just special. Very, very special. Oh, it's hard to explain, really. If we never ended up together, it'd probably sound all creepy-like, but it just became really, really important for me to keep you in my life. It didn't even have to be romantically, platonically. Anything more than me being able to set a steaming mug onto your usual table. I just liked having you there. Liked being able to look at you from out behind a counter even. And just know that it was another day where the days would march forward like molasses because you were there. And there you were. Maybe the seasons would change. The days would roll into night, hours and other hours, with or without you, but I wouldn't really think to check, you know? Gosh, it sounds kind of crazy when I put it like that, doesn't it? I don't know. I think it sounds pleasant to be wanted like that. So unconditionally. So selflessly. I didn't want you, your body, your mind, anything. I just want to know that you were there, living a parallel life in the same city that I was. You knew I existed, yes, and I knew you existed, and I probably wouldn't have even called it love at all. Just a pleasant routine that I had grown far too fond of. And to think my friends used to say that what I really wanted was a dog. Little do they know, I was able to get both out of you. Sorry, I shouldn't overwhelm you too much. You don't even know how we reached that point. I don't even know if you still like that sort of thing. I mean, I sure hope you do. The you from a week ago would hate to think you toss out something you once found so precious. Precious enough to beg for, if you really must know, but where was I? No, don't tell me. You couldn't even if you tried, I'm afraid. Ah, I remember now. I remember quite well. You brought a date there. To my cafe. To our cafe. It wasn't unreasonable of you, of course. You had no idea, and it was a rather pleasant little cafe with all the baked goods and varieties of coffee that one could muster. It was little more than a homemade little dessert bar. But that date of yours, that yappy little thing, she just wasn't right for you at all. I watched for months as you indulged in the simple pleasures and peaceful quiet while she bought the most expensive drink on the menu on your dime and just... You couldn't even get a word in edgewise. And I already knew you to be quiet. Relatively polite, occasionally jovial. You'd order with a please, say thank you, crack a joke with someone if they were familiar, if they were me, and I can't help but admit to you that I was a little bit curious to see what you'd be like with someone who was closer to you. The kind of close that I wished I could be, without the line of customer and service provider keeping us as separated as we were. She had access to everything I could have wanted at the time, and there she was, dousing your flame before even a spark could be lit. She was taking you for granted, and it boiled me up inside to see her treat you like that. Like an accessory for her Instagram stories. Nothing more than a cute piece of stationery or a particularly pleasant drink. Because not only was she not letting you speak, she was barely even looking at you. You and I... After she went to the bathroom to freshen up, because God forbid she actually drank the drink she ordered, and God forbid that touching the cup smudges her stupid waxy lipstick. I sat down with you. And I introduced myself. Really introduced myself. No perky, "Hi, I'm Caroline, how may I help you?" No pitty little line, no daily special, just, "Hi, I know that we haven't really talked a lot, but I'm Caroline, and you look absolutely miserable, but how are you today? And what do you know?" We just kept talking after that. Of course your date came back and she was sort of pissed that I swooped in like that, but with nobody really sparing her a second glance, she didn't really have any choice but to leave. So she did. And what choice do we really have after that, if not to talk for hours, to make plans for better dates than this one, where we wouldn't have to fondly remember the fact that The only reason that there was a first date to begin with was that I got too jealous to imagine you with anyone else, that I was still in my greasy, coffee-stained uniform when I kissed you goodbye, just on your cheek. God forbid we get too fresh too fast, even though I more or less had to admit to you I was more or less covertly obsessed with you for months, and you turned and kissed me proper, and the fact that we both tasted like bitter coffee. Our coffee's shit, and you know it. Or you did know it. At one point. It's weird to think that this memory for two that was made to be shared is now only remembered by me. By one. I know you must remember sitting in that cafe, but you don't remember the one day where I finally had the courage to see to it that our lives would change forever. It just doesn't feel fair. Even exes get these pleasant memories, twisted and rotted by time. And you don't. It makes me sad. But that just means I can say that everything I told you was all a lie anyways. We had a brilliant first date where I spotted you across the room at a dance hall after months of watching you at the cafe, and we were both dressed in nines on a beautiful evening that could only be gifted to us by fate. We danced together for hours, and we were really good. And our first kiss was when you dipped me on the dance floor at the climax of my favorite song, and we began to see each other every night after that because I told you I didn't want the night to end, and you said that if we saw each other only at night, it'd be like it never did, and we could be each other's dream, and that was our first date. Our real first date. Honest to God, cross my heart, hope to die. I promise. Hey, I'm a romantic. I can dream. If you get to remember the most wonderful version of the events that could have occurred, then why not let you live the most beautiful lie of all? It's not like you know it was a lie. Who are you gonna trust? Your lost memories? Or the one who can present them to you on a silver platter? Better than new. What's better than found memories, if not new memories? Someday, we might reminisce about this too. We might not want to remember this, of course, but we might. I hope there's a long future ahead of us, full of memories we get to share, so we never have to recall a time like this. But I like having a memory like this. I like having any memory with you. And if I were to only be able to remember this time, I think I'd be surprisingly fine.